Good morning, everyone. Phil Boyd wants school to be a place so fun, encouraging, and safe that you have to beg students and teachers to leave at the end of the day. Phil is from North Carolina, and he has traveled the continent for over 30 years working with school educators in thousands of schools, and we are very lucky to have him here with us today at the West.
Yara and I were very fortunate to see Phil at the Canadian Student Leadership Conference this past fall in Alberta. He taught us a lot about leadership, and we hope that he teaches you guys about leadership today. We chose you guys as the grade 11 class because we would like you to build our future leaders for Halifax West. Today he is going to speak to us about creating a community of care. Please give a warm West welcome to Phil Boyd.
So this little girl about 9 years old, she's walking through town and she's looking at each of the shops, kind of like downtown Halifax, and she'd look in one shop and kind of look, and she'd move down, and she got to the pet store. And the owner had taken a white piece of paper and a Sharpie, just wrote the words puppies, the number 4, and sale. And this little girl, she loved puppies, so she opened the door and she walked in. And the man came around the corner and said, "Hey, can I help you?" And she kind of got nervous because he's 6'5" and she's 5'0". And she backed up a little bit and she's like, "Hey, mister, that sign said puppies for sale. How much do they cost?" And the man kind of laughed. He said, "Well, they're really good puppies, but I got 9 of them, so I dropped the price to $50 each." She's like, $50? And she reached in her pocket, she pulled out all of her money, and she's like, "Well, I got $2.73. Would you let me look at them?" The man laughed. He said, "Sure," and he just whistled. When he whistled, down the main aisle came a big old mama dog, ears flapping, a little bit of hair flying. Right behind came 8 little balls of fur. As these puppies are chasing their mama, the little girl, she's tiptoeing and she's looking, and way back came a ninth when it would run and stumble, get up, run. She's like, "Mister, what's wrong with the last one? Why does he keep falling?" The man didn't even turn around and look. He just said, "Well, the last one was born without a hip socket. So if he walks, he can do okay, but if he tries to run, well, his hip will pop out. He'll get up, take off running, his hip will pop." And about that time, that puppy banged into its mom, and the little girl's like, "Well, that's the one I want. I want the last one." The man's like, "No, you don't want the last one. He's always going to be slow and behind. You're going to have to wait for him. Why don't you pick out another one?" And the little girl says, "No, mister, that's the one I want. I'll take that one." And he goes, "Well, how about if I just give him to you for free, because he's going to be slow and behind, not just now, but his whole life because of that leg." And the little girl, she got red in the face. She slapped her money on the counter. She's like, "Mister, I don't want him if he's free. I'll give you all my money today, and I'll pay you 50 cents every Friday out of my allowance till he's paid for. But, mister, I don't want him if he's free." And the man said, "Hey, girl, I didn't mean to make you mad." He's like, "Why do you want that puppy so bad?" She's like, "Yeah, I guess you don't understand." And she walked to the end of the counter, and she came around where the man could see her whole body, and she just pulled her pant leg up. And her leg was horribly twisted and held straight with a brace. And she said, "Mister, I'm 9 right now, but when I was 5, I was like the fastest kid in my neighborhood. I could run faster than all my friends, beat them in a race. Well, one day I ran into the street to get the soccer ball. When I picked it up, I turned to run, and I caught my foot. And I fell in the street, and the car accidentally ran over the back of my leg. And it ruined all the muscles and ligaments. And, well, mister, I can't run anymore." And my friends, they all know about it. I mean, most of them were there the day I got hit by the car. But sometimes I think they forget. Like last week, we were playing with a kite in the park, and we were taking turns, each person hold it for a little bit, and it was kind of cool. And then I was looking this way, and all of a sudden I heard Jeff go, "Help!" I look over, and he's running, chasing the string. So I know Jeff, I'm sure he just tested to see if he could let it go and grab it. And she said, the kite's blowing away, and he's chasing. All my friends like, "Help!" And we took off running. Mister, I even took one big step, and then I realized, I can't run. And I just stood and I watched them. And when they left the park and they went into the neighborhood chasing it, I figured they're going to be gone for a while. So I just got my book bag and I started home. And then she pointed at that puppy and she said, "Mister, if you'll let me buy that puppy and pay you 50 cents every Friday, I promise you this, I'll never leave him behind because I can understand him." And the man looked at the little girl and he looked at the puppy and he just scooped up the pup. He put him in that little girl's arms and said, "All right, I'll see you on Friday with 50 cents. And she kind of laughed. She hugged that puppy and said, "Mister, you're going to see me a lot of Fridays with 50 cents. And She turned and she walked out the door, and as she went by that sign that said puppies for sale, he quietly said under his breath, because she can understand him. You know, one of the coolest things when you're a high school person is when you have someone in your life who understands you. And some of you have a friend like that. Some of you are so good at telling what kind of mood your friend's in because you understand them so well. You can see her on the other side of the school, and you know, ooh. How many ever seen your friend, you could tell she's in a bad mood? You try to avoid her for a little while, right? Some of you look at your friend like right now, he's talking about you, man. And some of you are so good at this, you can tell when your friend's in a good mood, right? I mean, you ever seen your friend on the other side of the school? You're like, I'm having his fries today. I mean, seriously, when your friend's in a good mood, you take one of their fries, they're like, don't eat my fries. But when your friend's in a bad mood, you take one of their fries, your hand comes back with a fork in it like, don't eat my fries. And some of you are so good at this, you can tell what kind of mood your mom's in without seeing her, huh? I mean, seriously, how many of you ever heard your mom come in the back door? She'll slam the door, throw the keys on the counter. You're thinking, somebody's going to die tonight. And some of y'all have a little brother or sister, right? You'll send them in there, go say hi to mom, right? And there's an 8-year-old walking there, and you walk in a couple minutes later, all mature like a high school person. Hey, mom, I'm going to empty the trash, okay? And she's like, you better, child. And it's fun because I always like to watch you guys walk in. Because, you know, walking into assembly, it's always interesting because a lot of times today, this is cool, I'm in a theater, but sometimes I'm in a gym. And I was at a school a while back, and assembly was everybody's piling in, probably 1,000 kids coming into the gym, and they're piling into the bleachers, and I'm standing against the wall with the teachers. And this lady, she's standing next to me. She said, hi. I said, hi. I didn't know who she was. And all of a sudden, you know, almost 1,000 kids, the bleachers were packed, and this girl walks and just stops. And she's kind of looking at the bleachers, and the lady bumps me, goes, watch this. I said, what? She says, watch. And this girl standing there, you can tell she's looking for one of her friends. And all of a sudden, a girl way down the bleacher stands up like, ah! This girl's like, ah! She runs down, goes up in the bleacher, gives her friend a hug, sits down, they're like talking. The lady goes, I love high school people. She goes, I said, what? She goes, if we were at the bank, they would call security. Right now, they're like, she goes, I love these kids. Like a minute later, this guy comes in. He does the same thing. He just walks and he stops. And he's just looking, and you can tell he's looking for a friend. She bumps me again. And I'm laughing, lady, I don't even know you, man. She goes, watch. I'm like, and he's doing this. He's looking in the bleachers. What he didn't know, his buddy was like right over here against the wall. And his buddy stands up and just points. He looks back, points back at the guy like E.T. touching fingers, right? And he walks up, sits down next to his friend, and all he did was this, sup. And some of you are laughing because you're like those two girls. You haven't seen your friend, what, in 20 minutes? Tell me everything. And some of you are like those two guys. You haven't seen your buddy in, what, 3 months, all summer? You're like, sup, we're good. And see, the reason I start the assembly like this, do you guys know in the last 30 days, someone in your school found out their parents are getting a divorce? And enough of you have been through divorce. Enough of you have been through divorce that you know what that kid's feeling right now. At first, you know, the first couple days, you think it has something to do with you. Like, Mom, Dad, I'll quit, I'll start, And it takes a day or two before you realize divorce is not your fault, but it might be something you have to go through. I was speaking to a school a while back, and the assembly was over, and a girl comes walking up, tears rolling down her face. And she just looked at me and said, how did you know? And I'm like, I'm sorry, how did I know what? She said, my parents are in court today filling out the final papers. They're getting divorced. I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was you. The school this big, I knew somebody. I said, what did you do when your parents told you you're getting divorced? And she did this. I said, what's this mean? She said, I called my best friend, Allie. I knew she'd understand. Her parents got divorced 2 years ago. The first thing she did, she reached out for someone who might understand. And it's pretty cool when you recognize that you're not the only one. I was thinking, you know, in the last 2 months, somebody in this audience had to put a pet to sleep. Maybe it was that cat you had since you were a little kid. Maybe it's that dog that used to be by the door every day you come home in grade 5 when you weren't sure who your friends were, but that dog was there. And I was talking about having to put a pet to sleep, and after the assembly, same thing. I'm talking to a couple students. This girl comes rushing up, and she goes, hey, you were talking about me. I said, what do you mean? She said, about having to put a pet to sleep. I said, what happened? She said, oh. She goes way back. She said, when I was a little kid, I was so afraid of the dark. She said, every night I'd be laying in bed, and I hear this noise. How many of you remember being afraid of the dark when you were a little kid? Oh, wait, did you hear that? Someone just said, I still am, right? How many remember when you were a little kid, you'd negotiate with the boogeyman under the bed? You would say things like, if I jump far enough, you can't grab me, right? How many of you got a little bit freaked out about grade 5 when the boogeyman moved out from under the bed into the closet? Seriously, watch this. How many of you still shut the closet door every night? Be honest. I love it. Look at it. A lot of ladies. Some of the guys like, me too, man. And it's funny because I was speaking in the Prairie one time, and the biggest high school kid I think I've ever seen, he's sitting right in the middle of the row, and he's cracking up. He's laughing so hard that I'm like, what? I walk over to him. I said, what is so funny? And he stood up. He said, sir. And I found out later he's 6'7", 270 pounds, no body fat. This is just a big farm boy. And I'm looking. His whole school's watching. I said, what's so funny? He said, sir, I always thought when I got this big, I wouldn't be afraid of the boogeyman anymore. I'm looking, his whole school's watching. I said, where's your boogeyman? He said, out by the garbage can, dude. He said, my mom would be like, Bubba, take the trash out. He said, I'm walking going, don't mess with me, man. I will hurt you. And this girl, she said it got so bad every night. I'd be like, Mom, what's wrong? Mom, there's a bad guy in the house. How do you know? I heard a noise. Honey, that was the heater coming on. No, Mom, it was a bad guy. She got a German Shepherd. She taught him how to sleep next to the bed. She said, look, if you hear a noise, you look at that dog. If his ears are down, it's cool. If his ears are up, you call the cops. Don't call me. Now, we all kind of laughed, the 5 or 6 of us, and then she got serious, and she said, but about 6 weeks ago, his hips got so bad he couldn't get up to even go outside to go to the bathroom, and I probably waited a week or two too long. And she said it was the hardest day ever to take him and knowing I wasn't going to come home with him. And what I thought was amazing, out of these 5 or 6 kids that I was talking to, one of them right over here just reached over and touched her on the arm and said, yeah, me too, I understand. And she said, what? And all of a sudden she started talking about having to put her pet to sleep. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds or a minute while she was telling, and I just backed up, and I started talking to a couple students over here, but I kept my eye on this group. And what I thought was really cool is about 5 minutes later, that group went to lunch or they headed out, and they took her with them. I don't know when they got out of the gym, if maybe they just split up or if she went and had lunch, but what I thought was cool, instead of thinking she was the only one, she had someone say, hey, I understand. And that's why I love when I said, how many are afraid of the dark? Because somebody's like, dude, man, I'm in high school. I shouldn't be afraid of the dark. And then you raise your hand, you about half the crowds go, yeah, me too, man. Do you guys know in the last 4 months, someone in this audience had to go to the funeral of someone that was really important to them? Maybe it was a friend. Maybe it was a family member. Maybe it was a neighbor, someone that you knew. And I was talking about this at a school. The assembly was over, and I was just walking to the cafeteria, grab a little bit to eat, and I'm just walking, and all of a sudden this boy's next to me. And he's like, yeah, you were talking about me in the assembly. I said, cool, what part? And he goes, that funeral thing. And I said, well, whose funeral were you at? And he goes, my mom's. Guys, when a high school kid tells me their mom died, I'm like, what? I said, what happened? He says, first day of school this year. He said, my parents aren't married anymore. I'm an only child. He said, coming up to the high school, he said, my mom dropped me off first day of school, and she goes, I hope you have a good day. He goes, Mom, I'm so excited to get to the high school. I've been here for sports. It's awesome. He said, I went to my first class. Teacher, she's amazing. 4 of my buddies are in the class. I'm like, this is going to rock. He said, I'm just sitting down in my second hour class. Principal goes, hey, Stephen, I need to talk to you. So I get up, start walking. He says, no, grab your backpack. So I got my bag. He said, walking over there. And, you know, it's first day of school. Sometimes I have to move kids around, put them in different classes to make it balance. He said, I thought that's what we were doing. We're walking to the office. He said, we get to the office, but we don't go in the office. We go around it into the parking lot. He said, I look at the principal like, well, where are we going? Stephen, I don't know how to tell you this, but your mom had a heart attack. He said, I'm like, my mom is 37. How did she have a heart attack? He said, we get in the principal's car, and he said, I just casually asked, is she okay, as I was putting my seatbelt on. And he said, I'll never forget when the principal said, no, she didn't make it. It was kind of, I heard that and click. That kind of stuck in my brain. I don't really remember anything for the next hour or so, but he said, they told me I went in, identified my mom, signed some papers, called my dad, and my dad lives 2 hours away. He said, son, I'll get there as quick as I can. The next thing I remember, I'm kind of in the parking lot, and the principal's like, where would you like me to take you? And I looked at the principal and said, well, what do you mean? He says, you want me to take you home? Do you have a relative I can take you to their house? He said, I just looked at the principal and said, could you just take me back to school? I look at this kid. I said, you went to school an hour after your mom died? He goes, dude, there was nobody at home. I don't have a relative in town. I just wanted to be with my friends. I'm like, what did your friends say? He said, well, you got to remember, this is the first day of high school, man. I get back, it's lunchtime. I didn't know where my friends were. I kind of walked around, found them in the caf, and sat down. They're like, where you been? And he said, well, I told them they were shocked because they grew up with my mom. And he said, they were like, whoa. He said, one of them got up, got me some food. That was pretty cool. But the weird part was when lunch was over, everybody scattered, went to their next class. And I sit down, and everybody's like checking out the teacher, checking out the class, kind of figure it out. And I'm just sitting there thinking, my mom's gone. And he said, I'm doing okay now. He said, my dad moved back in. He says, a lot of kids came to my mom's memorial. But he said, as I was sitting there listening to you, he said, I was thinking, yeah, this guy, yeah, that stuff happens sometimes. He says, thanks for sharing that. And he just turned and walked off. And I'm watching this kid walk away thinking, what would it be like to come back to school an hour or two after your mom died? But here's the truth. I know some of you listening right now are thinking about a time when you came back to school after something tough happened in your life. Maybe it was a family member passing away, or you found out someone you care about has cancer, or maybe it's one of your best friends had an event last weekend and they didn't invite you, and you're still going, what was that about? You got froze out, or maybe your parents told you, hey, we're going to have to move, and you're like, no, I grew up here. This is my home, and there's just this woundedness. And see, the truth is, some of you are looking around right now going, and you remember her story, you remember his story, and you're like, oh, yeah, and you remember. And the truth is, some of you have known each other since grade 2, grade 3. And some of you guys remember elementary school when the teacher would be like, hey, the weather's nice, let's go outside and play. And all the little kids run out like, what are we going to do? And one kid says, let's play on the grass. And the other kid says, no, let's play Foursquare. And then the chubby kid would be always like, let's race. And you look at the chubby kid like, we raced yesterday, we beat you 10 times. And what does that kid say? Let's race again, man. Because that kid, when I was a kid, always had this smile on his face. He's like, I'm faster now. I know how to use my arms. Let's go. And some of you are laughing because you're like, I remember the chubby kid. And some of you are like, I was the chubby kid. And what happened when you're in grade 2? You don't know anything. You don't care. You just race. And all you racing your friends in about grade 4. Remember, some of you started chasing. It wasn't race. It was like the boys would chase the girls one day. And the next day, the girls would chase the boys towards the bathroom. And then sometime about April, you would catch one. You're like, what do I do with her? Your friend's like, no, don't touch her. She has cooties. You're like, dude. And some of you in grade 10 right now going, dude, what is a cootie? And the grade 12's like, you don't want to know, man. Promise you. But here's the deal. I don't know which one of you girls did it. I'm sure it was you. Some of you are smiling like, yeah. Grade 5. Remember when that one girl in your class invented the note? It was so simple. She's just sitting right over here. She takes a piece of paper. She writes something down, folds it up. And she's like, psst, give it to him. You're like, what is it? Shut up. Give it to him. And it notes goes down. What? Just give it to him. And all of a sudden, it gets to this grade 5 boy down here. And he's like, what is it? Like, read it. He opens it up. It says something like, if you love me, check the box. Yes, no. Now, some of you are looking at me like, dude, be honest. 5th grade boys do not love girls. You know what grade 5 boys love? Violence. Yes. How many of you guys remember you're in grade 5, you would see a spider. What's the first thing you thought? Tear his legs off. You would get a new truck. You'd go to the park. You'd be up on the slide. Your parents like, oh, my kid's going to push the thing down the slide. No. You would drop it off the top to see if it was Tonka tough, right? And then you get this note like, if you love me, check the box. You're like, I don't love girls. And what did you do? You made a mistake. You look down at her, and she's like, hey. And you're like, no. And then you took your crayon, you made a mark, and you folded it up, and that's when the fun started because you're passing it back. And guess what? Every kid has to look. Remember that? You guys are like, oh. Next, give me a. And 5th grade, that's all about sound effects, right? Remember if someone said a bad word on the playground, you guys would be, oh. And you'd be looking at nobody, ah. And the grade 5 teacher, he or she's up writing on the board, and they hear these noises, and they know perfect. The note's going right there, so they intercept right here. We do not pass notes. And what's the first thing the teacher does when they get that note? Yeah, they read it. They're like, oh. And this kid's like, no. And this kid's like, what does it say? And all of her friends like, I'll tell you at recess. And you go out on the playground. You lie to her. Remember that? One kid says he loves you. Next, nuh-uh. And grade 5, you go to the counselor for the first time like, I don't know who to trust. And some of you are looking at me like, dude, grade 5, that was easy. How many of you guys remember grade 8 romance? How many of y'all remember dating someone like for 2 hours in grade 8, right? And I love it. Some of the grade 11s are looking around the room going, I dated him. And your friend's like, no. You're like, it was a grade 11. But wait, check it out. Can you guys imagine the night you graduate from high school, you walk across the stage, you get your diploma, shake the principal's hand, you walk off. Wouldn't it be cool if your grade 5 teacher was right there? Box of notes, smiles, I've been saving these for you. You'd be like, no, everybody else is graduating. You're like looking through the notes like, hey, get that kid. It could still work. That kid's like, go away, you stalker. Leave me alone. Oh, wait, check it out. Some of you are having fun. You're looking around the room going, Some of these people you've known since you were a kid. But here's the question. Tell me this didn't happen. How many of you walking down the halls this morning, yesterday, here comes that kid 10, 20 feet in front of you, and they're coming at you. You've known them grade 2, grade 7, somewhere in your life, and it'd be so easy right now just to say good morning, to say, hey, how's it going? But instead of saying hi, you did this. Check it out. They painted the wall. And when that kid's past you, you look up. But check it out. What would happen at West, instead of looking somewhere else, if you look at that kid and say, hey, good morning. Hey, how's it going? Because here's what I know. The day Stephen's mom died, the day she died, he got back to school. There's no way anybody could fix that. He didn't expect that. He was just hoping someone might say, hey, good morning. Hey, how's it going? Nice to see you. Because here's the deal. Those days when you've come to school after something tough happened, you weren't expecting anybody to do anything about it. You just thought, well, how cool would it be if they showed me that they cared? And showing people that we care sometimes happens in little ways. We hold doors. We say please. We say thank you. We acknowledge someone. We sit next to somebody in a class. We say, hey, good morning. And they're like, oh, thanks. Because sometimes you might be the only person that says hello to them. So that's what I want to talk about is how do we create a place here at West where people feel like, you know what, I care. And so I know this, if I stand here and talk the whole time, it gets a little bit boring. So I like to get you guys involved, kind of make it fun. So check this out. I asked for volunteer. I've never met this person before. Her name is Emma, and here's the truth. Emma, as you start making your way up here, check it out. It's a little scary to be the only one up on the stage. So when she comes up here, Emma, come on up. Would you guys give her a big hand, all right? This is a real welcome, all right? Come on up, Emma. Here we go. So here's the deal. Check it out. Let's keep that bar of respect as high as possible because, as I said, a little scary. Emma, it's nice to meet you. Thank you so much. Cool. So, Emma, come right over here where we can see it a little bit easier. So, Emma, question for you. How old are you right now?
16.
16. So imagine for this activity, we're going to double your age, okay? It's just a quick 5-minute little activity we're going to do. So imagine at 32 years old, you're this amazing young mom, okay? You got this cute little 5-year-old kid. Every day you send him to school, and he comes home and says, Mom, because you're the coolest mom ever. I mean, every day you guys are playing Nerf football, Wii bowling, something. But today, this little guy comes walking in, and you're not home. You're just next door at your friend's house. No big deal. But he's like, Mom. And he thinks, oh, Mom's playing hide and seek. So he checks under the bed. He checks in the closet. He even looks in the fridge like, Mom. And then he remembers you told him, if you ever come home and I'm not here, go to the house phone, hit auto 2. It'll ring my cell phone. This little kid's so smart. First ring. Hello? Mom, where are you? I'm just at my friend's house next door. What do you need? Mom, I need to eat. I'm like starving Marvin. I'm so hungry. And you're like, well, little Marvin, I left some things on the table. I want you to make your own lunch. And he's like, Mom, I never made my own lunch before. So what I'm going to ask you to do is teach your 5-year-old little kid how to make his lunch, okay? Pretty simple. Here's the weird part, Emma. I'm going to play the role of your 5-year-old little kid, all right? She's like, that's weird, dude, all right? So, Emma, if you'll come right over here. If you'll stand right here, put your heels on the carpet facing this direction. Now, 3 things that make this work. Number 1, I'm going to give you the microphone so you can hear you in the cheap seats, all right? If you hold it down here, they can't hear you. If you hold it too close, it's a little scary, so kind of right in here is good. Second thing is I will do exactly what you tell me. If they laugh, ignore them. It has nothing to do with you, all right? The last thing, third thing, please don't turn and look, because if you look that way, it would be like peeking through the kitchen window, and at 5, that would freak me out, okay? All right, let's give him a big hand, all right? Here you go. Hey, I'll tell you everything you told me here, all right? Okay. So, Mom, I just got home from kindergarten, and I found a loaf of bread, and a butter knife, and a jar of jam, and some wild butter. Has no peanut. It just looks like it. Mom, what could I make with that?
You could make a sandwich.
Cool, Mom. If you tell me what to do, I do exactly what you say. What do I do first?
Open the bag of bread.
Open the bag of bread, all right? I got the bag open now. What
You take 2 pieces of bread.
Cool. I got 2 pieces. Now what?
You put them on the table.
Okay, put them on the table. Yep.
Okay, now you open the thing of jam.
Okay, open the thing of jam. All right, how do I open it? I try to
You twist it.
twist it. Well, I twist it, and it goes jam, blank, jam, the whole thing twist. How do you get the lid off?
You turn it.
Turn it. Okay. Oh, cool. It came off. All right. So I got the jar in one hand, the lid in the other. Now what?
You take your knife
With the lid or with the jar?
with your hand.
Yeah, but I got the jar in one hand,
Oh.
the lid in the other hand.
You put the jar down and the lid.
And I got the knife now. Now, Mom, we're okay. That eyeball freaked me out a little bit there, all right? So I got the knife. What do I do?
You put the knife in the jar
Yeah, it's in the jar.
and you scoop up some jam.
Scoop out some jam, all right? I scooped it out. Now what?
Now you put it on your bread.
Put what on the bread?
The jam.
Jam on the bread, okay? So I put the jam on the bread. Now what?
Okay, now you put some more jam on the bread, but you use your knife.
All right, the knife is on there. Okay. Very cool. Now what?
I don't know.
Mom, you okay over there?
Yeah.
I'm really hungry.
Okay. You open up the peanut butter like the same way you open up the jam.
That takes a while. All right, cool. I got the lid in one hand, the jar in the other. Now what?
You put the lid down
Yeah, lid's down.
and you put the jar down
Jar down.
and you take your knife,
Take the knife.
not your finger,
Not my finger.
and you scoop up some peanut butter.
Scoop up some peanut butter. Mom, quit peeking. You're freaking me out. All right, so I took the knife and scooped out some peanut butter. Yep, now what?
You put it on your bread,
Put what on the bread?
the peanut butter.
All right, so the jam's on the bread, the peanut butter's on the bread. Now what?
Now you put the slice of bread on the other slice of bread.
Put the slice of bread on the other slice of bread. So the peanut butter and jelly are touching?
Yes.
All right, now what?
Now you're gonna take your knife
Yeah.
and you're gonna cut it in half.
Oh, Mom, I like a whole sandwich. Let's give her a big hand. All right, here we go. Come on over here. So, Emma, I have a question. Is this what you told me to do?
Yes.
Yeah. Question for the audience. Is this what she told me to do? Yeah, pretty much. So first thing you said open the bread. Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Yeah, look at her. She's like, yeah. Emma, do you know this is the finest form of birth control possible? You're like, I do not want a child, right? But that's not why we did it. Check it out. And you said put the knife into the jam, and you did it awesome. It was perfect. I went to the grocery store last night. I got a candy bar. It looks just like a thank you gift. If you take one of those, let's give her a big hand, all right? That was perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. So I have a question. Do little things matter? Oh, wait, did you just hear that? A minute ago, I asked you 500 people, is this what Emma said? Like 480, you were like, yes! And I just said, do little things matter? About 50 of you said yes. About 450, you're like, trick question. I mean, honest, how many times have you ever heard people say, don't sweat the small stuff? But I would argue as a high school person, you probably get in more trouble over small stuff than you do big stuff. I mean, seriously, how many have ever said some little thing under your breath and your mom heard you? Oh, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. How many have ever heard your mom say, what'd you say? And you quietly said, Mom, I love you very much. Some of you think that's funny. I'm the dad. I don't think it's so funny because it's so. I was reading the paper, sitting there, minding my own business. My son, who was grade 9 at the time, he's walking through the living room. I do not know what he said. But all of a sudden, I heard my wife say, what did you say? And I lowered the paper like, somebody's going to die tonight. And he turns to his mom and said, Mom, I said, I love you very much. And she turned on me. She's like, what did he say? I'm like, no. I look at my wife. She's like, tell me. I look at my son. He's like, don't give me up. And I looked at my wife and said, honey, I'm sorry. I was reading the paper. I missed it. She's like, ugh. And she walks off. I look at my kid. He's like, thank you. I'm like, you're mowing the grass for the next 4 years, punk. But sometimes it's not so funny. I was speaking at a school in California one time, and the only reason I mentioned the school because it was like a nice day, and in California, a lot of times you guys have your schools are indoors. Theirs, they open the door and walk outside, and everybody's outside because it rains a little bit, but that's about it. And it was interesting because I'm walking at lunch to the gym because the assembly's going to start 1:30 or something like that. And I'm walking across, there's kids, it's just 10 here, 5 here, 3 here, and everybody just hanging out with their friends, nice day. And please excuse the racial slur, but this girl yells this. I'm walking, and all of a sudden I hear this, "Stop that, you dirty Mexican." And I'm like, no. I turn around right over here where it came from, about 12, maybe 15 kids, all Mexican. And I'm like, that is wrong. I start walking over there to say something. I get about halfway there, and I realize they don't know who I am. I haven't spoken to their school yet. And you know what it's like when a random adult says something to you? It's kind of weird. And I realized it was going to be that weird moment, so I didn't say anything. I just walked to the gym and set up my stuff. And right at this moment at the assembly, when I shared that story, and I think about it, they're in the gym, bleachers, 700, 800 kids. I shared that their schools, 80% of the kids are Hispanic, Latino, from Mexico, Central, South America. When I shared that story, they were like, no, not loud, just as quiet. Like they couldn't believe someone said that. Sitting over here in the bleachers, about 20 kids just slid away, leaving one girl by herself. It must have been her. I didn't know who it was. When I heard that voice, it was just female. I didn't want to call her out at that point. I just kind of walked this way so people would look at me instead of her. But when the assembly was over, I'd kind of cleaned up my mess, and I turned around, and she was right there. And she just said, "Sir, I want to apologize." I said, "For what?" She said, "For what I said at lunch." I said, "Why would you apologize to me? I'm not Mexican. You are." And she got this beautiful smile, and she said, "Because I know it's not right." And she said, "I don't want you to think people at our school are that way. I know better than that." And she shook my hand, looked me in the eye, and she said, "I hope you have a great day at our school." And she turned and she walked away. And when she walked away, guys, I got to be honest, that was probably one of the greatest acts of courage I've seen in a high school student. And there's many, but here's what I know. Most of us, including me, had that happened to me in high school, I'd have got out of the gym as fast as I could. Many of you are like, me too, but not this girl. She came walking up to me. She owned it. She looked at me in the eye, and she said, "I'm sorry." And I wonder how many of you are at a place in your life where every once in a while you realize you made a mistake. You said something inappropriate. You said something trying to be funny. You realize when you said it, that person's eyes showed that it hurt. And sometimes it's not funny. It's just mean. And it was interesting because when we have that moment, do we have the courage to look at someone and say, "You know what, I'm sorry. That wasn't funny. That was wrong"? Do we have the ability to look at our friend quietly when it's over and say, "That kind of wasn't funny"? And instead of getting mad at our friend, just look at him and say, "Yeah, you're right. I saw that too." And catch that kid a little bit later, because here's what I've heard. I've heard from so many high school people, I don't get laughed at and bullied by people I don't know. Most of the time, it's my friends who think it's okay to say stuff to me, and they don't realize how much it hurts. But the truth is, it does. And those little things we say. And so that's what I want to talk about is how do we create a place where people care? The letter C is let's communicate carefully. Let's think about what we're saying. Because those little things sometimes become big things. And if we can think about that, then maybe we create a place here where people care a little bit more. Emma, you did an awesome job. Let's give her one more hand. All right, thank you, Emma. Please clap once, clap twice. Hey, check it out. I don't know if it's possible to turn the house lights on just a little bit. I want people to be able to see for the next couple of minutes. You don't have to turn them all the way on, but if it's possible, that'd be great. Here's the deal. This time I'm going to ask you guys to participate, but I don't want you up here. And if you're in a class watching, same thing, just kind of do it. I'm going to ask a question that has two answers. And imagine we have that red curtain there, and we've got this red curtain here. If you're in class watching right now, pick two spots, maybe on two sides of the room. I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to ask you to point one direction or the other. As you point, please don't talk. Just notice the hands around you. It's kind of cool to see where people point. First question, if walking out the door today, we're going to give you a slice of pizza. Would you rather have a slice of pepperoni pizza or cheese pizza? Please make your point. Notice the hands around you. That's cheese, that's pepperoni. Staff, thank you for participating. Appreciate you being here. Oh, wait. Next question. You got to have something to drink with that pizza. Would you rather have a bottle of water or a bottle of pop? Mountain Dew, Dr. Pepper, Diet Pepsi? Oh, wait. Next question. You got to have a little dessert. How about some ice cream? How many of you rather have chocolate or vanilla? Please make your point. Somebody said swirl. We can do swirl. All right. Oh, wait. Next question. If we're going to describe your personality If we're going to describe your personality as a dessert, are you more like pudding, you're pretty smooth? Or are you more like Jell-O, you're a little jiggly and wiggly, all right? That'd be Jell-O, that'd be pudding. Wait. Next question. If we're going to give you tickets to a sporting event, would you rather go to a pro hockey game or a pro basketball game? You get to make the point. Wait. Next question. You got to get a ride to that game. Let's say we give you a license. Now, some of you are like, dude, I don't have it yet. We'll give you a special one. Some of you are like, I lost it already. We'll give it back, okay? Well, why is everybody looking at that one kid? What's this? But check it out. If you were going to drive to that sporting event, taking your best friend, would you rather drive in a Porsche or in a Hummer? Please make your point. Somebody said, what kind of Porsche? It's a free Porsche, all right? Oh, wait. Next question. You're coming home from the sporting event. Your best friend's riding, you're driving. You come around a curve, you see a car stalled, you're not going to hit it, so you swerve. It flips your car about 5 or 6 times. About the third flip, you're thinking, should have bought the Hummer. They rush you into emergency surgery. Your friend's okay, but you're seriously hurt. Just before they put the gas mask on to give you the painkiller, the nurse says, when you come out of surgery, you're going to be blind or deaf due to the damages. And you're like, what? Because you can't be blind. You read text. You go to movies. You like watching people. So you're thinking deaf. And you're like, I can't be deaf. I like the phone. I'm always into music. And you look at the nurse and say, how about you take my legs, right? And the nurse kind of laughs, says, nah, it's not an option. And it's not an easy question, but it's kind of interesting to watch which way people point. If you're going to be deaf, please point this way. If you'd rather be blind, please point this way. And then notice the hands around you. Please snap once, snap twice. Some of you look at me like, dude, I can't snap. Fake it. You just do this. Nobody knows, right? Try it again. Snap once, snap twice. Oh, next question. Driving age. It's always interesting when I visit a high school and meet someone there, 16, 17. I'm like, hey, you got your license yet? And it's interesting because for years, people started driving at 16. Now on the prairie, 14 to get to school from the farm, but now as I'm traveling, a lot of people are saying, no, they raised the driving age to 17. And I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, they're trying to save teenagers' lives. I'm like, okay. But I like to ask you guys, at what age do you really think it's best to start driving? How many of you think it's best at 16? How many think it's best at 17? Please make your point. Notice the hands around you. Please snap once and twice. Hey, next question. There's a lot of protests going on in the country right now, all over the continent, perhaps all over the world. I was at a school earlier this week, and they had a protest on their campus in their cafeteria this week. And there's a lot of different protests. There's sit-ins, there's walkouts, sometimes it's burning the flag. So I thought I would ask this. Without talking about it, just to point and kind of look around, see where people point, do you think you should have the right as a form of protest to burn the Canadian flag? Yes, you should. No, you should not. Please make your point. Notice the hands around you. Hey, do me a favor. Would you give a hand to everybody who made their point? Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Oh, wait. I wish you guys could see it from up here. It's so fun because when I asked about pizza, somebody like pepperoni and your friends like cheese, and you're like, we'll share. And then a minute later, I asked about pudding or Jell-O, and you're like, pudding. Your friend's like, you're not that smooth, trust me. And it's funny because I asked questions a little bit deeper, and one day I asked a question about burning the flag, and one kid's like, burn it. His friend's like, never. And you saw this look like, we need to talk, man. But one of the most powerful moments I ever had in assembly, I asked about abortion. And over here, there was a boyfriend and girlfriend sitting together. Just the way they were snuggled, I could tell. And when I asked that question, it wasn't about abortion. I was just trying to figure out how people point. I just said, who should make the choice about abortion? And she pointed one way, and he pointed the other. When he pointed this way, she just took his arm, and she pulled it over. Well, he yanked it loose and pointed back, and he was like, rrr. So I said, hey, would you guys come tell me why you pointed the way you did? And he shook his head. She grabbed his arm, and she pulled him out of the crowd. I just stuck the mic out. When I put the mic out, she grabbed me. She's like, don't nobody tell me what to do with my body. And she went on for like 2 minutes just preaching her gospel, man. Finally, she took a deep breath, and I said, is that all? And she said, no, but that's enough for today. And I turned to give him the mic. Yeah, she did this like a master. She crossed her arms, she dropped her chin, and she looked at him like, mm-hmm. He never saw it. When I went to give him the mic, he had his head down and he was trembling. And my heart dropped because I'm like, man, there's a story here I don't know. And we looked up, his eyes are rimmed in tears, and I was like, oh. In a voice we couldn't have heard, he quietly said, my mom was pregnant. She got pregnant when she was in high school. All of her friends said, that baby's going to ruin your dream. You got to get rid of it. My mom went to a clinic, talked to the doctor. After about a half hour, he said, it sounds like this is something you want to do. If you'll go in the back room, take off your clothes, put on a gown, I'll prepare for the procedure. My mom went back there. She put on the gown. She was tying that last little ribbon. But the last minute, she said, no. And she took her clothes and she went out the emergency exit. And he said, I was born 7 months later. He said, that's why I pointed the way I did this morning. And he dropped his head and one tear hit the floor. Guys, I got to be honest, I had no idea what to do. I was just stunned. His school, I didn't know him. They did. They were just totally quiet. I looked back at her. Remember, she started arms crossed, chin down. When I looked back at her, she had this look like, it was obvious she'd never heard this story before. And luckily for me, she just took him by the shoulders. They went back and they sat down, and I did my best to finish the assembly. After the assembly, I talked to some students, kind of cleaned up my mess, and everybody was gone. I looked over, the two of them were there talking. I just went over and said, hey, guys, thank you. That was really helpful. And they're like, no. They said, that was important. I said, why? They said, well, because we think we know each other. And then she goes, I never knew that before. He interrupted. He says, it's not a secret. He says, some of my friends know, but she and I have only been dating 3 months. This topic never came up. I looked at her and I said, did it change your opinion about abortion? I bet she waited 5 or 6 seconds. She said, no, I still feel the way I do about abortion, but it helps me understand why he pointed the other way. We talked for a couple more minutes, and then they turned, grabbed hands, they walked off. And as I watched them walk off, I thought, yeah, I wonder how many of us think so much that we know our friends so well, and then we hear part of their story. And then we learn something, we're like, wow. And some of you are sitting here going, you're right, I have a friend, and I wish I knew more, but they don't always tell me. Here's the question, how willing are you to listen? See, sometimes we hijack our friend's conversation. Your friend is like, yeah, I had to go over to PEI, I rode over the bridge, and I hate that bridge. That Confederate bridge is so high and so long. And all of a sudden you're like, yeah, me too, man. I was over there a while back. And instead of letting them finish, because maybe the rest of the story is, why were you going to PEI? Well, my grandparents live there, and my grandma's really sick. They've given her 2 weeks to live. But when you hijack their story and all of a sudden you start talking about you being afraid of the bridge, you never hear the rest of it. What if we just allowed people to keep talking? What if we just accepted people instead of going, oh, you got to be like me to fit with my group? How cool would it be if, as we listen to someone's story, we're like, oh, I didn't know that. Because what would happen if the topic of abortion came up for her and him, and she said, oh, I feel this, and then she turned and said, what do you feel? And instead of cutting him off, she let him finish. She might go, yeah, it didn't change my mind, but it helps me understand. And I wonder how many of you are sitting here going, I would love to go to a school like that. It doesn't have to be that we all think the same, but it helps me understand. Because I think sometimes we get offended by someone and we don't even really know their truth because we only heard this much of the story. And some of you are sitting here going, yeah. Because I wonder how many of you right now are thinking about a friend sitting somewhere in this school going, see, the letter C is let's communicate carefully. The letter A is let's just accept people for who they are. Maybe listen longer, because when I accept you, I don't want to change you. I just want to allow you to be you. Then you're pretty cool. And when I listen, the letter R is respect. Oh, wait, guys, here's the deal. In my years of walking around schools around North America, the one thing I hear from high school people is, please don't diss me. I had a kid come up on stage one day, under his breath, he said, please don't diss me. I'm like, what? Don't make me look bad in front of my friends. You saw with Emma, I said, stand over here. If they laugh, it's not about you. It's about something going on over there, because I would never want to disrespect you. But I don't always get that respect back. I had a kid in the back row yell out one time, man, you're just ugly. I wanted so bad to say, yeah, you and my mama are twins, right? But here's the deal. Check it out. This guy looked at me, and his friends grabbed him, pulled him down. But here's the deal. How long does it take to show somebody respect? What, 3 seconds? You're walking down the halls, you feel someone behind you, and you just open the door and say, after you. At lunch, you clean up your 2 or 3 wrappers, throw it away, it's clean for the next kid. It shows the custodian caretaker a little bit of respect, because instead of having to come clean up your mess, maybe they can get some new toilet paper, get a light bulb switched. And the letter E. The letter E is, check it out. I wonder how many of you weren't even thinking about a drink, and now you're starting to get thirsty. If I can get you thirsty in 10 or 15 seconds, how long do you think it takes you to influence the kid next to you? What happens if the letter E is say, let's just encourage people with our example. If you want a friendly school, well, just be friendly. If you want a spirited school, when student council does something, get spirited. If you want a respectful school, we'll hold the door. Say please, say thank you. So do me a favor. Take your pointer finger, hold it like this. Point at the person next to you, say, I'm so glad you go to my school. Point at the person on the other side, say, I'm glad you're here too. Halifax West, it's been a privilege. I'll turn it back over to them. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Phil, for traveling all this way to Nova Scotia to return to Halifax West. Your presentation was very meaningful, and it means a lot to us.
And on behalf of all the students of Halifax West High School, we have a little gift for you. Yeah. Thank you. And student government up there, just quick message, could you please come down to the stage after? Thank you for being such great listeners, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.